Linux Out Loud is firing up our mics, connecting those headphones as we prepare to get rowdy. I'm Nate, and I'm joined by my two fantastic fellow co-hosts, Matt and Wendy. We're three friends sitting around a virtual table. Is it a virtual table? Virtual bench, virtual counter. Anyway, talking about Linux, open source, tech, gaming, and everything in between, like robotics. We keep the banter-friendly conversation somewhat on topic, and we have fun doing it. This week, we are spotting off about our tantalizing tech tales. Let's get into episode 109. We are all together again. Finally, Matt, I've missed you. It feels like it's been half a lifetime, or at least two shows, whichever. Haven't seen you. I'm so glad that you are on my screen right now alongside Wendy. This is just... Am I laying it out too thick?
Lie. Yeah, you might be just laying it
just a smidge
too thick, but
doesn't matter.
Thick, you liar.
Doesn't matter. I am so glad that I get to be with both of you again. I love it when Bill's here too. Sometimes we should do it. We should do like the quad meetup again. That's always fun. But anyway,
yeah,
Matt,
was fun.
It's just a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy it. So we did it live too, right? Anyway,
we did.
Matt, yes, so much fun. Matt, you are saying on Linux Out Loud that Windows is terrible. What makes Windows terrible for you now?
Again.
Having to have lived in it for a couple of while on certain pieces of hardware that I have purchased yet again. Shock, surprise. I know that comes about no surprise. Me and hardware, kind of like Wendy and robotics, or Nate and Wendy about 3D printing. It's just kind of a thing this year. So behind me, I ended up purchasing a Surface Book 3. This is the last Surface Book they ever made. Newer specifications, blah, 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 maxed out specs. Short version is I had the Surface Book 2 15-inch, which was an i7 8th gen 1060 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM, blah, 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 blah. Cool. It works for the most part fine. Unfortunately, Linux has too many paper cuts with those systems. Thank you, NVIDIA, and some portion of Microsoft. So Windows, they have been stuck on. Windows, the best way I can equate Windows on a Surface device is it is the pixel experience of a Google Pixel phone, just with Windows and Microsoft. That is faint praise, and I'll put it that way. Windows is still Windows. Then certain things irk me with Windows. The update process is still god terrible. The fact that I still have to rely on third-party apps like Driver Booster and stuff in order to from IOBit to actually have a halfway decently updated graphics drivers and stuff. Just list goes on and on and on. So I also ended up picking up a new handheld. So new gaming PC, handheld, whatever you want to call it.
Running Windows
it is, and this is where the rub is. I did have Linux on it. It had way too many issues because of the hardware itself. So when I always talk about, I had Chimera and I had Bazzite. It's a known issue. It's a iNeo style device, but it's sold as an Antec device, which anybody who does PC building, Antec makes like computer cases, fans, all that kind of stuff, cooling solutions. It's called the Antec Core HS. It's based on the iNeo slide. It's essentially the iNeo slide. So it's got the old school slide up keyboard and all that kind of stuff. Fixes some of the issues that I've had with Windows in the past on these devices. Cool. There's still issues with Windows on these devices. Like in Chimera and all these other ones, you can auto log in. Windows, you have to regedit yourself in order to auto log in, so it just boots up as like an appliance, like it should. I'm not viewing these as a PC and that. So like just all these 8,000 paper cut things with Windows still drive me up a wall. Unfortunately, when it's the only like real viable solution for the hardware, it is super annoying. And it makes me long for Linux on those days. So where I have gotten to the point with my computing is very opposite of where most people would have at one point in time. Just give me Linux because it's an easier option.
That is a strange place to be, to say Linux is the easy option.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that wasn't on my bingo card 20 years ago.
Literally, I spent on Microsoft's own device. I don't know how many times I had updates and all the other, like, there's like a 6-prong process to update a Surface Book. It is stupid. And don't even get me started on Copilot and every other garbage thing that Microsoft sends out your way. I love going into startup applications and telling it to disable Copilot, disable. I think Skype was still running on that particular one, even though they're killing Skype off. So it's Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, all that stuff starting at boot is just super annoying. At least on Linux, it just kind of just doesn't do it unless I tell it to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you can get Linux running on service devices, but it's a bit tricky, as you mentioned, because you need to have that custom kernel if you're going to have touchscreen. Heck, even if you're going to have internet connectivity. And so it's one of those things that has to be done immediately. Like, you install the OS, you have your first boot, and your internet, your Wi-Fi will work then. But if you boot again without installing that custom kernel, you have no internet, no Wi-Fi on that device. So it is definitely like some hoops you have to jump through in order to get it working on there. I am curious though, on this handheld, like, what part of the hardware is not playing well with Linux?
A lot of it was I want to say it was the thermal controls, I guess would probably be the best way to.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
It would just calling it random, I don't think would be accurate. I think it would run too hot, so therefore it would then reboot.
Yeah.
And again, there's probably there's known issues with INEO devices and Linux, so it would not surprise me if it's just a software compatibility issue with that.
Gotcha.
But like the keyboard, like the slide out key or the pop up keyboard, however you want to call that, worked. Like almost everything worked. It was just that reboot process, and not having a consistent, like, oh, it's just going to run and not just decide to boot by itself. And I can say I don't have that particular problem with Windows. So, like, I've always been a best solution for the job, and unfortunately, the best solution for those pieces of hardware is Windows. I will say,
anyway.
I will say, Nate, I'm probably currently beating you.
I don't know. You did also sell some technology, and I bought some technology. So that does. Are you gonna offset? Because you do probably, if you're gonna sell technology, it does have to come off of your total, I would think. Don't you agree, Wendy? You're kind of the judge on this one.
Yeah, so I would say if you're selling, that could come off your total. Yeah.
So let's say let's track it separately. But let's say if Matt sells something for $300, and let's say I happen to buy something for $300 or whatever, $500, whatever the number might be, 200, 300, 5, doesn't matter, whatever that number might be, then he would actually have to be closer to net zero, while I am not. But I am selling a lawnmower. Does that count? Does that count as technology?
No.
Okay.
Not in the way we have. Not in the way we have. Hey, I'm owning it all at this point, as far as like.
Yes, you are
buying crap.
Every time you buy something, it's kind of fun to see it pop up in our little group chat, and you're like, "Okay, did it again. I bought this thing. Yeah. Here we go."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm aware. Trust me.
To me, it sounds like, and this is just I was just thinking as you're talking about your adventures here, it seems like there's some sort of like a self-flagellation you like to do, Matt. I don't know if like you hate yourself a little bit, but like it seems like, and actually I encourage you to keep doing this because I like seeing you hurt yourself, but not in that way, but in the self-flagellation technology way. But you buy this tech that has a lot of unknowns to it, and you get frustrated by it. I'm laughing on the inside, and I kind of enjoy the show from a distance. But I sometimes I wonder, but I'm you are doing what I would call good tech research. Essentially, at least you're providing the information that I know what not to buy. Surface, what's the thing called? What was the gaming device handheld? Neo. You're
muted.
I don't know what.
Neo slide.
Neo slide. So check. That's not going to come on my list.
You just avoid Neo products to begin with. They
play good.
Not nice on mics.
So I was looking to see, is there what is your hardware? So handheld. I don't. Oh, AYN. Is that how it's pronounced? AYN.
Yeah. AYANEO.
Oh, AYA. I don't see it on the. Oh, okay. Well, happy trails. Anyway, but you could probably help out some team out there and giving them information to help, maybe dial that thing in. So somebody else who might have a crazy idea about picking one up, may not suffer as intensely as you are.
Yeah, my whole so the Surface Book stuff. Those are the lessons learned. Put it that way. Those were self-learned lessons. I would honestly, I would still recommend most Surface Pro style devices for Linux. I know Wendy's got a couple of. I would. Surface Pro.
Okay.
There's a difference. Okay. Surface laptops, I can't speak for. Surface Laptop Studio, which is the new stuff, I can't speak to. The Surface Book it's a death by 1,000 paper cuts on that because like most of them use NVIDIA systems. So you're dealing with dual GPUs. You're dealing with the detachable screen that becomes the computer by itself when it's not attached to the NVIDIA base anymore. You have to have every reboot. You have to have a constant daemon. I think it's DTX running that is specific for that in order to actually detach the screen from there's just like a death by 1,000 paper cuts from a usage perspective. The Neo slide, that's an appliance, and I'm kind of I think I'm getting to the crusty age of I just want my stuff to work, and once it's working, I just don't care anymore. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like my days of exploring are becoming less and less. Ironically, even though I buy crap all the time.
Well, we all go through different seasons and phases and so forth in our life. There's. I know that things are a little bit crazy in your world right now, and so probably that the headspace and the bandwidth you would have to dedicate toward the exploration piece of technology or of like Linux and whatnot, probably not in your purview at this time. But if things change and you get some things settle out, I suppose, then that would probably change your perspective on some of that, I think. Because like I totally understand right now. Totally get it.
Yeah, you know what else would change though, Nate? Apparently some stuff that Wendy's also working on too since the last time she talked about Worlds.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this will be our last show until after I get back. So next week at time of recording is the last week that they're going to have to prepare. And so I'll probably be at the build room every day that week so they can get some drive practice and that kind of stuff in. And then I will be in Texas for a week. And then I'll come home. So like the week that I come home, granted that I'm not super sick because I was 2 years ago, but hopefully that was out of the way last week and I won't have to worry about it. should be good to go, and we can kind of have an update. But one thing I did have to get hardware wise, and this was my first hardware purchase of the year, was a new pair of earbuds. So it's not these ones. These are the Skull Candy ones I've had for a while. They're the ones I've been doing the show with. They're also my audiobook earbuds. So when I wake up in the middle of the night, my brain's running 1,000 miles an hour and I can't sleep, I'll just pop in one of these, start an audiobook, and that kind of helps me go to sleep. But I had a pair of earbuds that I really liked, couldn't find them. That was my day-to-day. So like answering phone calls when I'm driving, all of that kind of thing. And I couldn't find them. Like for well over a month, I couldn't find them. And one of the things that I didn't like about the other ones is they were like this. They were in ear, and while you could turn on the pass-through setting on them, it wasn't great. Like I didn't like the way it made other voices sound, and then those voices in, say, the audiobook or whatever I was listening to would sometimes kind of like blend together, and then I couldn't understand anybody. So I decided, okay, it was a good time to get something else. And I went ahead and went with the Shocks. These are the Open Fit 2. And the nice thing about these is these aren't the bone conducting ones, which I did look at the bone conducting. I just didn't like the wraparound part on the head. So these just sit over the ear. They still direct sound into the ear canal, but you can hear what's going on all around you really, really well. And so far, I've been loving them. They've been comfortable for wearing them all day, being able to answer calls, all of that good stuff. I know when I had the in-ear earbuds and say we'd be traveling for robotics or that kind of thing, I wouldn't want to leave them in my ear so I was driving, because then I couldn't hear what the kids were doing in the car and all of that stuff. And so this kind of solves that problem for me. I can hear what's going on around me, can have conversations, and at the same time be able to safely answer a call. So I've only had these since I don't know, when did they show up? I think they showed up Tuesday last week, and then I got really sick. So it's only been this week that I've really got to play with them, and so far I'm really, really liking them. I know that's not Linux related, but they will pair with multiple things. I haven't tried them on my desktop, and the reason being is sometimes I like to have these in, and Magneto will go to use the computer, and then if like these connect to the computer, I'm hearing Magneto's game instead of Magneto hearing his game, which isn't so much fun.
I think that's kind of funny because he's probably like turn up the volume while you're wearing them.
Like, what's going on? Yeah. So I stopped connecting my communication earbuds, whatever, to the main computer just for that reason. So we don't have to deal with that issue. But I did get around to something that I've been talking about for months. And today I finally put Fedora 41 on the beast of a laptop over here and just documenting like what things do I need to do so I can eventually get that script. But what things do I need to do for a base install? And install obviously went pretty good. Yes, it is the Plasma version of Fedora 41. Got the RPM Fusion repos installed on there, and then it was time to add NVIDIA, add the CUDA stuff. Now, I did see before I went about this process that we had someone in our Discord, and I believe it was War Thunder, that had dropped a project. So I will also drop this project. It's available on GitHub. You can pick it up from the Copper repos, but it helps you install DaVinci Resolve. And it goes through the processes of saying, okay, so let's start with installing everything that we need to before we can install DaVinci, making sure that all of your GPU drivers are up to date, and then running some fixes in the backend. So one issue that you'll run into with DaVinci is the libraries that it comes with are a lot older than on what's on most systems. I have a little script that I run. I'll also share that in the description, that after I do an update, I just run that script again. It takes and hides all of those old libraries, and then it uses what's on the system. So I didn't use this tool because I've kind of just learned a few tricks and stuff over the years that I haven't needed it. But if you do, it's there and it's available, pretty awesome. I can say right now that all that's installed, DaVinci boots. So I will be able to use it later this week for actually getting some editing done. I know printing was an issue. It's part of the reason I was jumping from Manjaro over to Fedora. I haven't messed with that yet. I don't know. Not sure exactly how that's working at the moment. I ran out of time. Had to get out of the house, and then once I got back home, it was getting ready to do this. So it is at least on this system for now. Eventually, I will get it moved over to the desktop, but I'm a little bit more worried about the desktop because this system has both Intel graphics and an NVIDIA graphics card. And of course, Fedora 41 wants to run Wayland. On my main desktop, my AMD CPU does not have any graphics associated with it at all. There are no graphics on that chip. All of it is coming from the NVIDIA graphics card. And when I've tried to run Wayland before on this system, I get nothing. It's just black screen of death. Wayland runs great on the laptop. I have had nothing but problems with it on the desktop. So that's one of the things that has me a little bit worried when I go to do the jump over to Fedora on the desktop. And it's because there is no graphics switching. There is no other way to see those graphics other than the NVIDIA graphics card.
Is there not some sort of a like you can still install it somehow, the X version of things, so you can use it, or maybe?
See, and I need to boot this up again and see, because I know at some point they're dropping X altogether, and I think on 41 Wayland is there by default, but X is an option in that initial login window if you switch to X. But I need to double check on this one, make sure that's still available. Because like I said, overall right now, that is my biggest worry. Will I actually be able to use the computer after installation and the NVIDIA graphics drivers are installed?
Well, I'm interested in seeing how that works for you. I'll talk about it a little bit later, I suppose. But I've not had great luck with NVIDIA on Wayland.
Right.
Although it works, but not great. So
Not
I
great.
think maybe the I know there's work on some other open source driver pieces. So maybe in the next few months that's going to get all worked out. I mean, there's been a lot of advancements in Wayland and on the desktop.
Yeah.
Like they're pretty rapid fire at this point. So it seems very likely, very possible at this point that you're probably going to get that resolved in the not too near future. So it may be a non-issue. Maybe that when that rolls around, they might actually have that worked out. Because I can't imagine with the way things are going in Fedora land right now. I mean, they've had missteps in the past. They've had some other missteps even recently with, I would say. But it seems like overall, the direction in which they're going, they're rapidly solving a variety of problems. So I'm very optimistic that the Fedora team will get that resolved by the time they choose to preclude X from their distribution.
Right. And I believe that's 42. 42 is where there will be no X everything at all anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's coming up, right?
That's my understanding.
So, I mean, they never give solid release dates or whatnot, but I do believe that 41's been out for a while, so 42 is on its way, and we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to start with 41, and hopefully everything's fine. Like I said, fingers crossed that everything boots fine. Even when I was running Manjaro, I had Wayland running on the laptop, just not on the desktop because of some of those issues. So we'll see how it goes. Now, I'm not the only one who is having some fun GPU things going on. This one, I think I should be sending it over to Matt, but I'm not. You now have an eGPU.
I do, and I blame Matt for his bad influence on me.
Agreed.
Or his good influence on me. I'm not sure exactly which influence it is. Probably a little bit of both. I think Matt would probably agree to that as well. So what I did was, now I didn't go like, so when Matt does things, he goes, this is my opinion, this is my perception, I should say. My perception is when Matt buys something, he really does his research. He gets the one that has the correct feature sets, that is, of more better reputation in delivery and so forth. I feel like he really dials that in. Doesn't necessarily always get, have a home run. Remember the mini forms woes that you had some time back
from a while ago.
Yeah. But I would say, like, overall, for the most part, I would say when you make a decision, you've done your research, you know what you're doing. And when and the difference between you and me is like when I go to the restaurant in the menu, I read from right to left. I see what the price is, and then I look at what it is, because that's just how I operate. And I kind of did the same thing. So I'm not a classy guy. There's nothing like classy and cubicle Nate. There's not really like two ideas that coincide. So I did the not the El Cheapo route. I didn't go like very bottom, but I got something that I felt like would fit my needs best. So it's one that's like open frame. Is that what we call it? Open frame, open to the world, exposed, unprotected,
open bracket,
I suppose, without apparel. Anyway, so I got a 600, I think, watt power supply. Now I did go with the RGB for Wendy. Actually, the way the discussion went down was I was at work. I was looking at power supplies, like around lunch. I was eating my lunch or whatever, looking at power supplies, and an old friend that I have who works there, the maintenance manager, he comes in and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking at power supplies." I said, "I'm between these two power supplies. They're both about the same price. They're both about the same wattage. It's like between 50 watt difference." I said, "I got the RGB one for $50, and you have the non RGB one for $35." And he goes, "RGB." I go, "Yeah, but I mean, is it really necessary?" He goes, "No, RGB." I go, and I said, "Yeah, Wendy would appreciate that." And he goes, "Who?" Anyway, so because he's not a Linux guy at all,
and not a listener, yeah.
No, he never will. In fact, if he did happen to hear this, he probably still wouldn't tell me, because he wouldn't want to admit to it. Anyway, he's a more manly man than I am. He's one of those. So kind of a real, he wrenches on vehicles and rides dirt bikes and crashes, and anyway, all that fun stuff. So anyway, then so the eGPU part of it has two USB-C slots, so two Thunderbolt 4 slots or whatever. So, and they both, although it says one is link, the other is power, they both operate the same. So, but I put in the link anyway, just because that's just what I did. And then a USB 3 port on it as well. So now a lot of the other ones didn't have two, so it'd just be like the device or whatever. So a lot of them didn't have like the hub capability. And so I started out first wanting to use an NVIDIA 2060 on this, and it worked. So the open source drivers, in a way, work slightly better than the proprietary drivers as far as frame rate was better, but it had really weird artifacting, and so that was no good. So then I went to the AMD. I installed the proprietary drivers. I got a whopping 30 FPS, 30 like basically out of it. And so it was like really awesome, super great. But it was also I'm running on Wayland, so that's part of it. I also am using Plasma, that could be part of it too. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to run GNOME anyway. So, but connecting the screens worked really well. So I plugged in this monitor over here using DisplayLink, and somehow through the magic of however Linux handles monitors, it remembered that screen and its position when I plugged into the eGPU, even though it was plugged into a different dock at another time. So somehow, I don't know how that works, but it actually put it right where it's supposed to be. And then I decided I'd run the TV behind me on it as well. I got to, just to see if I could. Ran that, no problem. I should say it ran it on the NVIDIA one, but not well. But when I went to the AMD, actually, I think Matt told me about to get this card. This is probably like 5 years ago. He said I should get this card. And so this has been an ongoing thing here with Matt and I. Maybe it's 6 years ago. 2019 is when I got this. It's an RTX 570, I believe. No, AMD RX 570. I can't remember the nomenclature now. Some sort of a 570 with some other letters in combination thereof. And so this has some more gigabytes on it than the other one. But anyway, that actually ran
Probably
really
the
well.
gig version.
Probably, yeah, the 8 gig version. I mean, actually, it functions really well. So it ran the screens, at the max speed that the TVs and TV monitor could actually do. I had no glitching, no weirdness. Everything just worked. So beautiful. But the performance was great. But the problem that I had was if I disconnect the GPU, and I've tried different ways of disconnecting it, like powering it down, then unplugging it, or even turning off the screens and unplugging it, like logically turning them off and unplugging it. And no matter what I did, the computer hung, like it just kind of like froze up for quite a while. And I'm to the tune of like several minutes before it came back. Yeah. So that didn't work real well. And if I were to plug it back in after the disconnect, now mind you, the computer totally functioned fine after it came back alive. I didn't have any other weirdness. The computer ran fine. It recognized everything just as well. There were no actual like problems other than if I tried to plug this thing back in, it had like a Thunderbolt disconnect. Like it would not reactivate the Thunderbolt connection to that device. And I made it a trusted device and all that stuff, and it just would not be. It was not happy. It was very unhappy with it until I rebooted. So, I haven't further tested it since. There's been a couple of kernel versions that have come down since. So maybe it's something that's been cleaned up. I'm not even really sure about bug reporting on this. Like, who do I even talk to about a fabric cobbled eGPU setup that I have causing this kind of a hang up and whatnot. I probably need to look at what I should do. I probably should just like talk to some people. Anyway, but I'm talking to you two. So I would love it if that would actually work, just as smooth as like a DisplayLink dock or any other dock. That would be great. I don't know if maybe because it's making other connections because it is a GPU that I'm plugging into it, that maybe there's some other whiz-bangotry going on in the background that I don't really understand. But the bottom line there is when it's plugged in, and if I don't undock from it, beautiful, works great. As long as it's really, truly problem-free when it's plugged in. As soon as I start messing with like disconnecting it, and I've tried even like through the dock station or directly, and I've done a bunch. I tried a bunch of different little things. Then it doesn't like the dock anymore. And maybe it just doesn't like this particular dock station because I did get it from, Docs R Us or whatever it is. And actually, I can give you the user manual. It's basically an unbranded that had just some sticker slapped on the side of it. So, but it does say it's Linux compatible. Anyway, so it's been a fun experiment. It's kind of on pause right now, and I'm kind of in a state of, because I talked about previously about the kind of a monitor refresh going on, and so this sort of puts the brakes on that. Not that I couldn't do it with the laptop, but there's just some concerns now about changing how I'm doing my screens, my monitors that I have with this, because it's just I don't have a warm fuzzy right now, but I have another idea. So I guess we'll see what comes of that. Matt's shaking his head because he's dismayed at my lack of success. Or now, Matt, did you have good success with eGPUs, like docking and undocking them?
It kind of depends, honestly. The one I have, it was fine if I was doing it to an external display. So if I had the eGPU plugged into, say, the tablet, as an example, and I was going to a TV from the eGPU to a TV or another monitor, I generically didn't have any issues. A lot of the issues I would tend to have was when you were trying to use, say, the tablet monitor, because it's piping through and back through the same bandwidth wise, back to the same monitor. So there tends to create lag and that kind of stuff. But I'm assuming with your setup, the way you're doing it is it's plugged direct. It goes from the PC. So you're plugging out and using the eGPU as the primary output for. So then I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why you would be getting some of those issues. I know The hang up, has it done that while you're using the system at all?
No.
Out of curiosity. Because I
No,
know
it runs totally fine. I even played games on it, like on the screens and everything else. And it was actually great because there was no, I could tell my computer was not working as hard. The fans weren't spun up as much when trying to do like, some, because actually Minecraft does actually use quite a bit of the, the clock cycles. So,
yeah.
So I cranked everything up with Minecraft and it ran fine. So
yeah, so NVIDIA's spotty at best, even on Windows when it comes to eGPUs. They'll work kind of when they want to, but that's kind of the eGPU experience across the board from my own experience. Is they work, and when they work, it's fantastic, and then when they don't, they really really don't. I think a lot of it's probably protocols. Thunderbolt. I know, technically speaking, USB 4 is Thunderbolt 3 and newer compatible, and blah 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 blah, all that stuff. I would almost tell you, Nate, when you get certain hardware, there's 2 USB 4 ports on said device. Give it a try with your eGPU.
Just so you know, I did plug it directly into the dock as well. So it went through the computer to dock to eGPU. That actually worked fine.
Shock.
And then also right from the computer to the eGPU, that worked fine. Seemed to work from my perception, worked just as fine. I'm sure there was less latency in that. And then I also did it where I didn't have the dock and I just used eGPU, and that worked just as well. Except I lost 2 other screens because there's a direct. Well, yeah. So that also worked just as well, but I had the same problems with all of them. So so I could repeat the problem with every arrangement. So I know it's not because I have some unique, crazy, although I do setup. It is something in the communication with the eGPU. Maybe I'm missing some. Maybe there's a component I'm missing, a software component I may be missing. I'm not really sure on that one. I call it a marginal success. It was successful, but only marginally. So, Matt, speaking of marginal, is this a game that you have going on here? Is this a marginal game?
Marginally
a game?
It depends. Marginally successful game, I guess, would probably be more accurate. So the reason I picked this particular game, besides the fact currently, as of recording date, it is 55% off on GOG. This game is by the folks that did Tower of Time, which is one of my kind of favorite isometric tactical style RPGs. Fun game. This is kind of the next game in, I don't want to say that series, but that line of kind of game development. They unfortunately, it's been successful, but it's questionable whether or not the studio behind it is going to still keep going. But they have released a lot of improvements and stuff to the game. So and this is like a year plus after they released it. So the fact that it's a single player game that still has been getting improvements and support by a studio, I think is one of those things that we find very rare in gaming nowadays. It does play nice on Linux. Tower of Time has a Linux native port for those that care if it's native or not. These guys have been very proactive as, like, if you're looking at gaming as like, you're selling me a product, does your product work? These guys have iterated and improved on that product. So like the last update they had was a performance improvement one, where the whole concept was just like performance, here you go. The time before that was a lot of I think that was the one they called like a director's cut of the game, essentially. So very, very focused on fixing a lot of core issues and that kind of stuff. So I just think devs who treat their product and support their product, I think, deserve kind of a focus in future. It's a choice consequence action style role playing game. It's kind of got that overhead view of it. It's like 1349 on GOG, I think, right now, and. Yep. I would say it's definitely worth it if you like those style of games. That's really all I really kind of wanted to plug for it, just because I think the devs actually supporting their games. I mean, like they supported like Tower of Time for like 3 years after release. Like these guys are really good devs that I think really deserve the praise that they have earned for their work. So,
I mean, it looks neat. I don't know if this is necessarily my style of gaming. Yeah, it looks like a neat game. Surprised you like it.
Wendy, if you want one content edit, here you go.
Okay, here we go.
I do like the art style though.
The art style is very Victorian meets kind of steampunk is kind of the vibe that they go with.
It's brighter though. Like, it's a like brighter colors. It's not like dark and depressing.
Less
so
grungy.
Like it's more, to me it feels more lighthearted and fun. So, and that's cool. I don't know that I have the patience for these games. Like I think
they're long. That particular game is probably 30 hours,
like
give or take.
I'm still working on Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness from 1999. Like I have not gotten through that game yet, and I feel like I need to get through that. And that's a similar style, I think, of game. Is this like turn-based or is this real time?
Real time or turn. Well, real time with pause, so it can be kind of both if you want.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But
one of the nice things that GOG gives you is time to beat. So just doing the main story, it says about 22 and a half hours. But if you're a completionist, you're looking at 40 hours.
So there you go. And at $13, basically, I think that's pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's really good.
I mean, the animation's great. The effects are great. They make things a little bit, crunchy or juicy. I don't know what the term is, like how they shake the screen a little bit. I'm not even sure what it's supposed to be anymore.
Yeah, I have no clue.
But yeah, it looks neat.
So while I am making game recommendations and whatnot, Wendy, it looks like you're getting some recommendations from the community for printing.
Yes. So last episode, I was talking about the fact that my 3D printer was down, and no, I don't have it fixed. But Sean, who's the same one who told me about the flat pack for Orca Slicer, listened to the show and sent me a little tidbit on some things that might be wrong with it. So I figured I'd share with you guys. Hopefully here pretty soon, I'll actually get to sit down. At this point, it's probably not going to be until after we get back from Worlds, but eventually sit down and go through some of this stuff. So if one of you have been dealing with one of these issues, check this out. It might help you solve your problem. So I get a, hey, Wendy, finally had a chance to listen to LOL 108 this morning and heard you were having Clipper issues again. But it might be Mainsail or NGINX, the web server that's causing the problem. I think I remember you using Mainsail, but Fluid should be similar and they both deploy NGINX if I recall correctly. I check the web server is running with, I will drop the line to use down below. If it is, or even if it isn't, there may be more info in the logs. If NGINX is running using tail with the following flag on mainsail-access.log and then trying to connect to the web server could verify that the traffic is getting there and the problem is elsewhere. I will also put that command down below. Other logs to check would be the printer_data/logs directory, but I assume you've already looked at those. I hadn't because I didn't give it any time in order. It was just it's not working. I have stuff to do and moved on. But I will check those. Anyways, hope this helps with getting your printer back printing again. Thank you so much, Sean, for that feedback. I will definitely be checking that out. Like I said, at this point, it's not top priority in getting that running again, but it's one of the first things that I will be doing once getting back from Texas and trying to get that up and running. I'm hoping it's something, simple in there, that one of the logs or something with that server could be the issue. I really don't want to go through the reinstall process. It's just a pain in the butt. But thank you very much for that heads up. And maybe that can help somebody else in the community.
But it's cool that he has such knowledge that he could provide that to you. And that's one of the cool things about doing the podcast and other things, having the community of us technology enthusiasts, or as Matt calls us, nerds, to be able to bounce
being able to bounce stuff off each other.
Yeah. It's such a wonderful thing. Community is such a good thing, and I hope we get it back printing again. And you said probably not gonna be able to get it until after.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen until after we get back from Worlds. I've got this show and DL to edit this week. Next week, we'll be pretty much living at the build room. Plus, I'll have the last DL before I kick it for a while. Yep. And so I just don't see that I have the time to kind of stop and play with it and give it my full attention. But I will be definitely getting to that because I'm going to need it again, right? I print things on a pretty regular basis. It was frustrating for it to be down in the first place, but I think we're done printing stuff for the robot for now. The other fun thing about the community is Linux Saloon. You guys sometimes throw some different distros in there. And I did get to hang out on the one that you guys were talking about, Bazzite. It was a pretty interesting conversation, and it kind of seems that it's caught your eye. You might have another love of your life besides OpenSUSE.
It did. So I have to say, if we're going to talk about so sometimes Linux can get a little bit boring. Not necessarily boring, but the development slow down. So when I started using Tumbleweed, I felt like it was kind of it was the direction a lot of things are going, rolling release with the rapid QA going on and all these things, which are still happening at the same rate, maybe even better now than it was. And it's not that I've lost interest in it, not that at all. But what I have noticed is from the Fedora community, and it might be the Fedora and OpenSUSE communities, I mean, they all work together in many ways. They share a lot of information. So it's kind of like a rising tides raises all ships thing here. So what I think is really neat is Fedora's got some of that same, they're a lot more, I would say, forward-leaning when it comes to new technology and trying new things in many ways than I think than any of the other distributions. And maybe you could say, Red Hat might be the most conservative of, when they implement things, while Fedora is probably least when it comes to implementing new things. And I'd say probably the SUSE, OpenSUSE is probably somewhere near that, but maybe a little bit less, but in the middle-ish, yeah. And Ubuntu might be a little bit more, even more conservative as of late. They're very, very pushing forward with their snaps, and maybe they still are. I don't know. I haven't really been following that for a while. But anyway, the point is, when it comes to distributions, I'm usually not super excited about a lot of things because I've kind of seen this before. I've played with this. It's going to install. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Nothing wrong with it. It's not what I'm looking for at this time, but it's a great, a lot of times I'm learning about what's a great just in case distro or another option distro. But largely Linux distributions are kind of becoming a little bit, homogenous in some ways. So you have, because they can all use Flatpak and app images and snaps to some varying degrees, but they basically can all do the same things, have the same selection of applications. And also there seems to be this, I don't know, almost like a tendency where, we got to remove the bloat. We're not going to install this, because some people complain. I blame Arch users on that one. But anyway, so things like OpenSUSE I've noticed has become less opinionated about a lot of things. It's become a lot more vanilla. So it's whatever Plasma, the KDE community is doing, they're just going to just basically suck it in, and then just that's what it is. They're just going to use that, maybe throw a wallpaper, maybe a color scheme, but basically, put your little logo in the corner. That's about it when it comes to customization. Their opinion is going to be on the underpinnings, not so much on the top. And in many ways, Kubuntu is the same way, but they have a little bit more opinionated, but largely it's Ubuntu essentially with a Plasma skin on it. And if you get like Fedora Plasma or OpenSUSE Plasma, fundamentally they're all kind of the same experience. Is that good? Maybe it's good. I don't know. But anyway, all that said, not to say I'm getting bored with Linux, but sometimes like distribution explorations haven't been particularly exciting unless there's something really unique about it. Well, we did Bazzite a couple of weeks ago, and I got to say, this is like the first time that I've played with the distribution where it may have, in a long time I should say, shaken my foundation of love for the OpenSUSE. I mean, like it was that interesting to me.
Wow.
So, and what was neat about it is how they go about building, and I've heard like Adam Grubbs, who does join Linux Saloon from time to time, talk about how he builds his images in the cloud and then pulls them down with something he does in GitHub. I don't know how. It was a little bit beyond me. I'm sure I could figure it out, but like I didn't have the headspace for it. So, but he builds his images specific for the pieces of hardware and what he's going to run, and then that's how he runs it. And if he wants to do an update, he puts it together out in the cloud and then pulls it down. And if it doesn't run, it just doesn't boot, and then it goes back to the old image. So kind of like how the Steam Deck handles things, like how Android handles things, handles updates, I should say. So that AB sort of
partition system, yeah.
Yes, how they manage like the root partitions. And so to me, that's very compelling because you have an automatic fallback switch mode, everything else going on. And I know like with OpenSUSE, they have like these transaction updates where you can add packages to their immutable distributions, but I guess they're not immutable. There's some other term for that. Now, I don't know. We're going to say these atomic distributions or whatever you want to call them. So you can do transaction updates. You can actually add packages or groups of packages to it and then be able to run it, and then updates come down for that. So in a way, kind of like how Flatpaks uses groupings of, I would say, it's my interpretation. I could be getting this wrong. So if I get it wrong technically, send me a nasty email. I don't know. Or send Matt a nasty email because then Matt can say things to me. So regardless, there's a way that they handle those changes. And to me, it's okay. It's a little bit like annoying. So in playing with like these, like Aeon, the OpenSUSE communities, Aeon, and then also Bazzite and everything else, here's where I'm at with it. Now, I love George or Jorge's Castro's view on the whole thing and how he wants to basically, the distribution's not as important, or like the underpinnings. We want to focus on the applications, the terminal through like terminal applications through Homebrew or Brew, and then your desktop environment. And that's really all you should care about, not so much all the rest of it. And I totally get that mindset. And I, and Roger, I see where that is. And that might be the eventual future of Linux, where it kind of all sort of homogenizes maybe in the long run. Maybe, I don't know. But in playing with it, I'm kind of at the way I look at it is Bazzite, super neat. And like if I were to build a let's say like for the enterprise space, like let's say I want to build a product for either corporations, small business, or just home users that are just not technically savvy, I think Bazzite or things like Bazzite, Silverblue, Micro OS, that whole family of cloud ready computing seems like the way to go. It's essentially how Chrome OS is delivered as well. It's how they deliver Android. This is probably how commercial Linux on the desktop will have to be delivered for it to be a success ultimately, I think. Now, I also think at the same time, so I think it's perfect for things like appliances, laptops for non-technical people and whatnot. But so it's like Bazzite for me I love it. I think I used it on my Steam Deck. Even used it on the SD card, which is, no, don't do that. But I used it on the SD card anyway because I wanted to see how it would actually perform, how it would behave, knowing that I gave it a bottleneck, a difficulty, a hurdle it would have to jump over. And it handled the whole thing so well. I couldn't even tell I was not using SteamOS until I dug into it, obviously. But like all the updates went through, through the Steam update thing. It actually pulled all the updates in the back end for what it needed for Bazzite. It did all the neat things, all the required things you'd want it to do. And I was this close to putting Bazzite on my Steam Deck. I liked it so much because the other thing too is it has all the other things that I want built into it. So SteamOS, great. I've noticed your SteamOS, but I like the additional lickies and chewies they put inside of Bazzite, like Tailscale. So if I wanted to join my Steam Deck or my device to my Tailnet, I can do that with basically no faffing about. It has all the core neat elements that is necessary for everything I would want to do with my, how I want to own my own network and how I want to manage things. So to me, Bazzite's pretty cool. Now, my oldest, he fought me on the whole don't put Bazzite on the Steam Deck. It's perfect just the way it is. Don't mess with it. I said, well, I can't do this, X, Y, and Z. He says, just leave it. It's fine how it is. I even had my nephew give me a hard time about like, that's dumb. Don't do that. So I said, fine. I'm just going to get a different handheld, and that's what I'm going to put it on. So, thanks, Matt. So anyway, so I'm going to put it on I want to say a Ready One player, but that's not it. It's OneXPlayer. And Matt, you said it's got an AMD Ryzen 7 6800U, 32 gig of RAM, a terabyte SSD. 6800, what did I say?
78. You said 7800.
Ryzen 7 6800U. Sorry about that. Go. I'm tripping up already. Must be getting late. And I'm very excited about this because nobody can give me a hard time about it. They keep stealing my Steam Deck anyway. Well, yeah, they'll probably say something. They keep stealing my Steam Deck anyway. So I feel like I'm retreating a little bit, but this will be more powerful. I don't know how the battery life is going to be on it in comparison to the Steam Deck. I don't know.
Give or take, about the same.
Give or take, about the same. Okay, so in the same ballpark, that's fine. I mean, probably the games I'm going to play, it's not going to matter anyway. It's like putting a 400-liter engine in a Chevette. So anyway, all that said, I think right now, this year, 2025, I think maybe the Fedora family of distributions are probably doing the most interesting things right now. Probably. I think with things like Bazzite, Silverblue, that whole family of these atomic operating systems. And it'd be interesting to see, like, I feel like this is kind of a pivoting, changing moment in the whole Linux landscape. Maybe it's a further fracturing. Maybe it's more of a converging. It could be both, maybe at the same time in some ways. But if this means that Flatpak is going to get a lot better, it's going to be better for everybody, basically. So I really like that. I'm very excited about that. The other thing too is, in playing with Bazzite, Tumbleweed is still going to be, for me, I think it may be a familiarity thing, or maybe with a more granular, like I don't have to go out to the cloud to build something locally. I can just build it locally and use it immediately. I don't have to reboot to do the additions. That's one thing that annoys me about these immutable operating systems. You don't get the new packages you install on your core system until you reboot. Don't really like that. It kind of annoys me kind of a lot. So until they can get around that, which I don't think is possible, how things are today, I think the way Tumbleweed does its snapshotting, the rollbacks, if you do mess things up, to me, that still seems like because you can script that stuff out and build everything locally too, if you want. But I see the benefits of both. They're both really cool. They're different ways of doing kind of similar things. But for me and the way I like to operate, I think Tumbleweed still has the edge on Bazzite. But except for things like handhelds or appliance devices, I think Bazzite is really I really think Bazzite is kind of it's really very cool. And he basically told me I could do the exact same thing in OpenSUSE. He actually went over, like George said exactly how I could do it in OpenSUSE, like very rapidly. I didn't grasp it all because it was like midnight-ish when I was talking. It was like after Linux Saloon. We talked like almost 3 hours.
Wow.
Basically do the exact same thing. He explained how it's done. So it really wouldn't matter the underpinnings, whether it's Fedora or OpenSUSE, it doesn't really matter. Which is kind of frightening all at the same time. But anyway, very interesting stuff going on. I'm really excited to see what happens with this. I really am excited to see Flatpak become something even better than it is for as a software distribution method. Actually, even called Flatpak a distribution, which was interesting. But anyway, that aside, Bazzite, very interesting. I highly recommend kick the tires on it.
Checking this one out, yeah.
Understanding what its purpose is, specifically for, gaming focus. Understanding that, using it like that, fantastic idea.
Very cool. I can't wait until you have your other handheld and you can show it off with Bazzite on there.
Bazzite, Bazzat, Bazinga, whatever.
One of those things.
Well, now it's time for you to toss in your 2 cents on today's topics. Hit that discourse form, drop us a line under this video, or on the contact form by visiting tuxdigital.com/contact. If you'd like to hang out with us on our preferred social media, see the links at the bottom of the show description. Find other great shows like the Sudo Show, Destination Linux, Linux Saloon, and more at tuxdigital.com. Show off your love for your favorite podcasts and shows by visiting the Tux Digital merch store. Grab yourself some awesome swag like the gamer-centric I Pause My Game to Be Here shirt, or join #Team Wendy with some sinister Wendy swag. As always, we thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time with another awesome sode of Linux Out Loud. Until next time, keep the banter friendly, the conversation somewhat on topic, and have fun doing it.